Hello YouTube, this is the 5th video in the Hattrick Managers Lounge, and today we're talking about the off-season. What might surprise you about the off-season is this is perhaps the most important time for your Hattrick experience. I'll tell you about 3 reasons why that is the case. There's 3 things I would like you to consider doing during the off-season in Hattrick. Number 1 is to review and swap leagues if you have to. The second one is to update your budget. And number 3 is to reach out to your peers. That is dependent on your league colleagues in number 1 though. We'll get to that later in the video. When reviewing your league, you want to look at the activity levels in the league, the strength of your opponents, and the age of your opponents. Right. So activity, it's just a lot more. It's more fun playing in an active league. There's no doubt about it. Playing against human managers makes you think about your tactics. You have to look into how they played during the season, and you actually have to be more active because of the level of activity in your league if you want to compete or try to beat some of your opponents. So when looking for a new league, look for an active league. The second thing to consider is, of course, the strength of the opponents in your league. You don't want to be in a liga that's too strong if you can avoid it, simply because losing week in and week out is not fun at all. Even if you have planned for it and you know that you're following a strong or a nice plan, it's not fun losing more than you absolutely have to. On the other hand, you may also be playing in a league that is too weak for you. And that might sound a little strange, but hear me out here. If you're playing in a league that's too weak and you just win, let's say 14 games in the season against bots and newly started teams, you will be promoting. And that may sound fun initially. If you promote too soon, you are most likely going to end up losing heavily in the next season. And that is highly demotivating. It's even more demotivating if you have been winning a lot and then you have to get used to losing just as much all of a sudden. So if you play against stronger teams, you may end up winning. You may even end up in a promotion game, but you most likely won't promote too early. And that will fit you, and it will actually hone your skills and abilities as a manager playing against human opposition, because you will have to think about what you do. Also along the same lines is looking for age. If you are a relatively new team, you would want to find league colleagues with teams aged around the same age of your own team, simply because you're more likely to find someone who are about as strong as yourself. And most likely if you haven't dropped out during the first season, most people do, unfortunately. So you will be finding a level of motivation that fits your own. Okay, so people, if they are actively seeking a new league, you know that they'll be active, hopefully. But you also know that you will be in the right area talking strength of your league opponents. So look for the age as well. The second thing I would like you to do when preparing for a new season during the off-season is to make a new budget. And the most important figure in the new budget will be the sponsor money. And if you're going to promote or not, using this formula. Newly started, this is of course only if you use the risk fee 99% of the time. You would always pick the risk-free offer because it's simply the best option and a place where Hattrick could change the design a little. But let's get back to the formula here. The base fee B is found this figure to 18,785, and then you have the base fee. The match fee is calculated by dividing. All right, so they are as follows. Would have a coefficient of 65.81 and so on. All right, so let me show an example. If you have an idea how many fans you have next season, you can already calculate this figure for the base fee offer from the sponsors. But maybe that's by multiplying and fans and then adding in euros this base fee by 1.94. The coefficient A is determined on your league level, and League 1 and so forth, League 4 with 2,205 fans. This is purely fictional numbers though, but you would calculate B to be 32.71 multiplied by 2,205 fans added to 18,785, and that means that the base fee each week would be 90,910.55. This will be rounded in Hattrick euros per week. And then the match fee for the 14 league games would be 90,910.55 rounded of course, divided by 1.94 equal to 46,861 euros each on each match day in the league. Alright, so now you have the most important figure for the budget of next season. Feel free to steal the budget that I'm linking to in the description in the video below. Right, and the final thing, now that you have a budget, now that you have an active league, is to reach out to your peers, because by now you will have realized that Hattrick is actually a slow game. So you want to interact with other people in the game, and if you interact with your league peers, you will most likely spend a long time playing against these players, because if you're all active and you're all relatively equal in strength, you will most likely be playing for a long time against each other. So try to see if you can get some forum interaction going with the guys in your league. For instance, in my own league, we do a tipping game. We just try to see if we can pick the game results each week. That is just to keep people active and actually have a look, see how the game goes, and hopefully, in our case, it sparks other activities. We have another manager in the league doing a statistics corner and presenting some observations about the league, so it's quite good fun. Right, so there's a few tips on how to improve your manager experience during the off-season. The final thing I want to ask, if you are not all that new, but you are a more experienced player, if you are to give new players one advice coming into Hattrick, what would it be? Please let me know in the comments. First things, if we have any newcomers to Hattrick reading, they will be able to lift that tip right off the comments. But I would also like to hear what kind of advice you would want to give newly started managers. And that's one advice. If you could give them the most important advice for starting out a Hattrick team, what would it be? Thanks for watching. Hopefully your next youth pool will be divine.